What's good, YouTube? Jay Lee here. Got another Northwest podcast for you today. It's been hot here in Seattle. Apparently record-breaking heat, or just about record-breaking heat. I think it is record-breaking heat in the Pacific Northwest. I think the state record, somebody was telling me that the state record for heat in Washington State, I think, was either tied or broken yesterday, or 2 days ago, excuse me. And I think it got to be about 110 here in Seattle, which is, I think that's a record. I'm not sure, but it's freaking hot for Seattle. Seattle does not get that hot, which is actually, over the years, one of the things that I appreciate about Seattle, because I've learned, or at least living in Seattle, I have changed to the point where I do not want to be around heat. I don't like hot places, which is ironic because when I first moved to Seattle, I hated Seattle so much because of the weather and because of the people. I wanted to move to Arizona, and this was when I was like early 20s when I first moved to Seattle. I wanted to move to Arizona because I was like, wherever the opposite of Seattle is, I want to be. And to me, the opposite of Seattle was Arizona, because Arizona has lots of sun and Seattle does not have a lot of sun. So I wanted to be in Arizona. But as the years went on, I've started to appreciate the cool weather in Seattle. So you can see out now, here right now, it's overcast like a motherfucker, and it's the end of June, last day of June. So tomorrow is going to be July, so we're in summer, right? And then this is what it looks like. It looks like December or something. If you didn't know it's 75, you would think it's December or something. This is Seattle, man. These are our summers. You know, we get sunny days here, but you know, it's pretty overcast all the time. It rains less actually than people think. People think it rains every day. It actually really doesn't rain all that well. It rains a lot more than other places, but it doesn't rain that much each week. But what we do have is we got overcast all the time. So I'm from Spokane. I grew up in Spokane, where it's like 110 average in the summer. Well, that's probably not true. It's about 95, 100 average in the summers in Spokane, and we got nice summers. And I miss that heat in a way. I miss that. I'm used to that heat from Spokane, and in a way I miss it because it brings back memories and it makes me feel pretty good, you know, in my headspace and things like that. But at the same time, living in Seattle, it's like, damn, I don't want to be around that heat. It's so hot. It's so fucking hot. And when you're, you know, mostly cool, like right now it's like 75, might even be a little less than that, like 72 or 71. And it's just nice out. It's just cool and nice. And it's like you get kind of used to that. You're like, damn, that's nice. And then you have a real hot day in Seattle, and you're like, oh, that's horrible. I feel so uncomfortable and da-da-da. And anyway, it's weird how you get used to things that you didn't think you'd get used to. But all right, so what do I want to talk about today? Today's a little bit different because I'm not really gonna. Well, I'll tie it into the red pill. But I want to talk about character. And if you guys listen to my podcast a lot, if you listen to my old videos, you'll realize that I talk about character a lot, but I usually talk about it in the context of women having good character. Meaning, guys need to choose women who have good character, right? Like, why would you want to choose just some sloppy Joe woman who doesn't go to the gym, doesn't eat right, doesn't take care of herself, has a bad personality, she lies, right? She's dishonest, she's manipulative, she's shady, she goes behind your back. What is that? That's what we call a bad character, right? You'll even hear that term in movies, like, he's a bad character. Well, this guy's a bad character, right? Well, what do they mean by that? It means they do that character, that person does shitty things. They lie, they're treacherous, they're murderous, they got these evil plans, they're manipulative, right? And what's funny in today's day and age is, like, people don't really care about anything. You know? Like, they don't really care about anything but money. That's all people care about, is like myself and money. That's they really don't care that much about friends unless it like benefits them. That's a weird thing. I talk about that sometimes too, friendship and the friendship dynamic. Friends and friendship dynamic is a weird thing, particularly in America, because it's really just like acquaintances, and it's people you like being around because they're successful or they're good looking or they make money. And friendship is just a lost thing in America. You know, it used to be about loyalty. It used to be about values. It used to be about finding somebody that you had fun with, but also you really cared about. You know, I think that stopped in the 80s. I think so much stopped in the 80s. I think there was some great things about America before that. And then the 80s hit, and it was like this big economic boom. And I think really what at its core was greed. I think a lot of what changed America was greed. And because you can become a millionaire in America. And then, you know, the goal, I think it's funny. I heard Riff Raff say this. I don't know if you guys know who Riff Raff is. He's like a white rapper, but he also makes he also sings and does different kinds of music. He's actually really good. But he said, I think he was on Vine or some shit like that, and he's like, my main goal is to get rich and act like I don't know nobody. That's actually a pretty good impression. But that's what he says. My main goal, he says my main goal is to blow up, not get rich. But either way, it's the same thing. My main goal is to blow up and act like I don't know nobody. Like, that's, the funny thing is, that's a lot of people's goals. They just want to get rich and shit on other people. It's this weird American thing. I'm sure all countries all around the world have their flaws and have their drawbacks and things like that. The world is a messed up place, you know, it really is. But what's funny is it seems like America is just so cutthroat, which is funny. It is funny because we act like we're the opposite. Like, oh, American values, we're not like that in America. We really care about other people in America. Like, so much of America is just selfish. I'm not saying there's not good people here. I'm not saying that there's not good people, but so much of America is just selfish. It's all about them. You know, people only really care about themselves, or their program, or their ideas, or their politics, or their this, their that, right? It's so selfish. So I want to talk about that in a character standpoint, because I met this woman yesterday, and she was just so nice. And I know she wasn't like hitting on me or anything. She was just a nice woman. And we were talking about something, and she was so positive, and I know she didn't want anything from me. She wasn't like trying, she wasn't being phony. She was just so nice and positive. And I remember walking away from that conversation thinking like, man, I just do not meet people like that, whether it's a man or woman, especially not women, but especially not young women. It seems like, for some reason, it seems like older women in their 40s or 50s, it depends if they're, conservative. And I hate to say this, but conservative women, for some reason, and when they're 45 to 60, like they can be, they can also be crazy Karens, right? It's like there's those ones, right? The ones who are they'll call the police on you in a hot second for doing nothing, like skateboarding down their sidewalk or something, and they'll call the police on you. There's those kinds of conservative Karens. But then there's just these ones that are just so nice. They're so positive, and they're so like just supportive out of nowhere. And like, you think of like Canadians, right? Canadians are so nice, aren't they? A lot of them, they're just so like, they'll let you borrow their car or give you the coat off their back or some shit. And you're just like, damn, why are you so nice? Like, so many Canadians are so nice and polite. And like, why can't all people be like that? Why can't people have good character? Why does everybody gotta be so damn selfish all the time? And like, some people make the argument like, well, there's no time to be nice. And like, I got no energy to be nice because I'm working all the time, and I got my family, and I gotta make this money and worry about these bills and blah, 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 right? But you gotta wonder, like, is that really all your life is about? You can't be nice to people. You're so concerned about money that you just, you're just mean all the time, or you don't give a shit about anyone but yourself. And like, I don't know. One of these things that I noticed was that, you know, as life goes on, it just seems like most people really only care about themselves. Most people really only care about, you know, their little circle, their little family, you know. And what's funny is that, like, you know, they'll tailor it to exclude things that they don't want. Oh shit, I forgot. God damn it. I can never tell if because it's a stop sign, but I gotta wait. It doesn't say yield. That's the problem. It doesn't fucking say yield. It just says it's just a stop. I've done that before too, and that person honked at me and got pissed. Anyway, holy shit. All right, so they'll tailor it to, like, exclude things that they don't want. And on the one hand, you think, like, all right, well, that's, you know, I guess that makes sense. You know, why would you want to deal with things you don't want? But then you realize, like, a lot of it is not simply just that. A lot of it is, like, people are cold. Like, people don't, they're not open and kind and nice and, like, genuine anymore. And I noticed this, and I think other people have noticed this too. I've heard people talking about this, but and I think it just has to do with money, man. It has to do with greed. It has to do with money, right? So really, though, it's bad character. You know, it's bad upbringing. And from a red pill perspective, a lot of the reason why I think this is because a lot of people have messed up moms. You know, we have a whole generation of women who were, and here's the funny thing. When I was younger, I didn't think feminism was that bad when I was younger. I knew about it. I just thought it was benign. I thought it was like, oh, it's just this thing that only some women believe in, right? You know, I didn't think it was that bad. But then as I got older, I realized how powerful it was. Like, how much it actually influences young women, right? How influential it was to these young women's minds. And until I really moved to a liberal area, because again, like I said, I grew up in Spokane, which is a conservative area, right? And I met a lot of those type of women that I explained, a second ago. Very nice, conservative, supportive, positive women when I was growing up. And then I moved to Seattle, and where it's liberal, not conservative, and like it was just a totally different world. Like, it was culture shock, big time. And one of the only things that really got me through the culture shock was sort of like learning how to be isolated. Or, well, I don't know if isolated is the right word. It's almost the right word. I would say learning how to be independent. That's probably a better, although, you know, isolation is part of that, because if you're a loner, then isolation is part of that. But I mean, I've always had friends, and I have friends to this day, but it's just, and that's also what helps me understand this, that the world has grown cold and all these kind of things, right? But, you know, I went through a period when I moved to Seattle and this liberal area where I really was almost isolated, but I became very independent because this culture is so selfish, right? I remember growing up in Spokane, you know, I would like to be outside all the time. I would always go outside. I would go walking. I would go to the mall. I would go to these stores. I would go window shopping. I would ride my bike. I would play sports and this, that, and the third, right? I'm always outside. And a lot of the reason is because it was so positive outside. It was like there was so many nice people. I'd just be walking down the street, like checking out cool houses. I was kind of a weird kid. For some reason, I like to go walking in neighborhoods that looked at cool houses. And you'd see people like watering their lawn or, you know, planting in their garden or something like that. And it was just so like idealistic, right? On the one hand. And then on the other hand, when you saw these people, it was very social. Because they'd say hi, and I was just like, hey, how you doing? I like your flowers. You start talking about flowers, and it was like weird. It's like, does that happen today? Like, are people that social anywhere? Probably in some cities. I'm sure it depends on the city. This has been one of my theories for a long time, that how you like how happy you are, how you behave, how you feel about your life and things like that has a lot to do with your environment and how tied in you are to the people in your environment, and then what kind of people live in your environment, right? So I always felt like I was happy when I was in Spokane. I was happy because there's these nice people, and I say conservative women because it's like when you get around women who are not conservative, it's a whole different ballgame, right? It's a whole different environment. And the reason why I know they're conservative is because they're positive, they're happy, they're nice, they're kind, and I feel like you don't get those kind of character attributes unless you are a Christian, right? I feel like Christians, for some reason, conservative Christians, they have this kindness about them, right? You live in an area that's mostly atheist and liberal atheists at that. Like, you look around and you're like, yeah, I guess these people have money, you know, they've got houses, they've got nice outward lives, right, financially, but you realize they're not happy on the inside. You know, they're not happy on the inside. They're so concerned and worried about their money, their mortgage, their house, and like, they're not open type people, you know? And it's a weird thing, culture and environment, because it really is shaped like your environment. Your culture is shaped like your environment. So if your environment is full of people who are, you know, don't believe in God, they pedestalize money, they pedestalize success and things like that, you'll get people who are like that. And what does it take to be like that? You gotta be an asshole. You gotta be a jerk. You know, you would think you didn't, right? You would think like, oh no, you can want money and not be a jerk. You could want to have success and not be a jerk and things like that. But really what comes with that, because you don't have time. Right? You don't have time to be nice. You do, actually, truthfully, you do. But in that mindset, right? In that mindset that these people have, they don't think they have time to be nice. They don't think they have time to be kind to other people, right? It's not positive. You know, these people are not positive in their social interactions. And I noticed this, you know, like I said, I like to go out and I people watch, I mingle, I talk to people. And you notice, and I've always done that, but here I do it less and less. I became a lot more isolated because people are not nice. There's no like positive, happy people to go out and talk to in liberal, atheist Seattle, you know? Like I said, when I was in Spokane, I would be walking down the street, right, enjoying houses, enjoying flowers. People would be out gardening, and they'd say hello to you. Hey, how you doing? Oh, you're out for a walk? That's nice. Oh, cool. Where are you walking to? Like, neighborly people, you know, kind people, you know, not weird or anything, just neighborly, kind people. And you lose that when I don't know, man. It just seems like the world has become more, maybe it was always like this, you know, and people just had this idealism, but I just remember before the 80s, you know, and even in the 80s a little bit I experienced it, you know, but it just seems like people have changed, you know, people are, but it could be my misconception, you know, maybe people were always like this, you know, but I think even in Seattle, I remember going on, you know, YouTube and watching like Seattle videos where like they're talking about old Seattle, and people in the comments would be like, yeah, I remember moving here to Seattle and it was so positive and people were so nice in the 70s and and then these liberals came. This is literally in the comments, man. You can go read this. I forget what, there was one specifically that I was watching where guys were really saying this. I forget what video it is. It's something like what happened to Seattle, or how did Seattle change, or something like that. And so many people in the comments were saying the same thing, and they were like, yeah, it used to be so nice and everybody used to be so positive and it was such a great place to live. And then these liberals came and they became bureaucrats and they came into the government now, and nobody cares about anybody now and all this shit. And it's like, I feel like this is systematic. I feel like this is something that has happened, and it's like, I don't know, man. We used to have a culture. We used to, America used to have, actually, I don't even know. I mean, yes, for sure, a culture, but really what was within that culture, was kind of the glue to that culture, was love. America used to have love, it used to have love for each other. And when I talk about good character, like what I'm really talking about is like kindness, love, positivity, right? Neighborliness, wholesomeness, right? These kind of things. That's what I, consider good character, right? Not being, deceptive, manipulative, not being a jerk and mean to people, not being like this Machiavellian personality, which has been pretty popular for some reason. Like a lot of guys, and they like this Machiavellian, they think like, oh, I'm this bad dude, and women are so much like this, so Machiavellian women, because they're social, and when you combine social, a social person with evil intentions, you get all kind of machinations, right? You get all kind of plots and plans and deceptions, and whether it's a guy or a girl, really. But girls are worse. Like guys, there's some kind of code, because as men we kind of have to have a man code a little bit. But a lot of women, I don't know, they have no morals. They have no wholesome traits, and it really just becomes a sort of kind of Machiavellian play to them, their lives, Machiavellian plot. They're just so ruthless, And so I talk about that a lot. Like, why would you want to marry somebody like that? Why would you want to, you shouldn't want to get in a relationship with somebody like that. And that's in general, just for anybody, really. You wouldn't want to be friends. You wouldn't want to have a friendship with somebody who's just a jerk, or somebody who's like making fun of you, or somebody who doesn't have a good character, and they bring you down. Like, you don't want to be friends with somebody like that even, right? So why would you want to marry a woman like that, And it's like, those type of women should go single, just like men who don't have money go single, right? Because you need money to afford a woman, right? Well, in the same way, women with bad character should be discarded. Women with bad character should be, left alone, right? Like, leave that alone. You don't want to be with somebody like that. You don't want to, right? You don't want to marry or have a relationship with somebody like that. Anyway, I need to turn around here, but so many people back here have money, man. These are $1 million homes back here, and not even mansions, really. That's just how much stuff is, inflation, and well, that's probably not $1 million home, but there's a lot of land back here. Anyway, but you wouldn't want to marry somebody like that, You wouldn't want to be with somebody like that, and it's like, in general, though, people are like that. So it's like, you can imagine why people are committing suicide. You can imagine why people don't feel like they fit in. People are like isolated and lost and depressed. I read something the other day that said something, depression. If you have depression in a crass, selfish, greedy, egotistical, messed up society that we live in, if you have depression in that type of society, that's actually a normal reaction, right? It said something, it was a meme, and it was like saying something like that. Like, it's actually a normal reaction to be depressed in the type of society that we live in. And then yet you go to a doctor or a psychologist, and they'll say, here, take this Prozac, right? Here, take this Paxil or whatever, right? And they think that's going to fix you, when really your depression, your problem is because we live in a messed up society where there's no love. When I was a kid, we used to go to this farm, and they had goat's milk there. My mom was big on feeding us goat's milk for some reason. I guess she felt like it was very healthy, and I think she was right. But she was on this health kick, and she'd meet these people who were like farmers way back in the woods, and they had these goods. They had goats, and they would milk goats, and they had other things, and she would, honey or whatever, raw honey or whatever, and she would go and she would buy these nutritious organic goods from these people. And I remember these trips being so social and being so kind, and these people were they'd always, you don't really know them, right? But they're genteel. And like the first time you meet them, they're really loving and open, and they extend graciousness to you, and they're just very, very accommodating, very genteel. That's probably not the right word. What's the word I'm looking for? Anyway, gentility. They exhibit gentility. They are very kind, right? And you talk to these people, and we would go and we talk to these farmers, and they would tell us about, their crops, and they were just so nice. And it wasn't like the center of the conversation was, hey, I need to get my goat's milk. It was like the center of the conversation was like, we all know that we're being social, and we're being social in such a way where we are being kind to each other and genteel and very neighborly, right? And it's like, that is gone today. That is not, it's like, where is that in our society? I don't think this is the right road. I think it might work though. Anyway, where is that in our society anymore? Like, in a way we've advanced, right? Our money is, we've learned how to get more money. Like, a lot more people have money and wealth, and so there's a higher standard of living in a way, right? Meaning like, oh, I got this great house, but do you really need that great house? I'm not saying people shouldn't have houses. I mean, like, there's a difference between like $150,000 house and then like $1 million house, and a lot of people are spending a lot of their time trying to get that $1 million house, and I say that to mean there's like that's a culture in and of itself. That's a lifestyle in and of itself. Oh, I need to live this life to where I can make that $1 million home. And you're like, well, that's your whole core value, And there's so much out there that is like, there's so much out there that's like pushing that type of mentality, that is pro-positive of that type of mentality, Such as like, money over hoes, right? Like, that's a gangster rap concept, but that's honestly a lot of people, whether they knew that concept or heard that gangster rap concept before or not, they live their life like that. Money over friends, money over family, money over love, money over kindness, right? And it's like, every day we live in this society, and you wonder, where's the love? And then you meet somebody who's like super nice, super positive, makes you feel good, is kind, and then you're like, wow, that's actually awesome. Like, why can't it be like this all the time, right? Why can't, why do people have to judge me for like being weird, or not being weird, excuse me, why do people have to judge me for being different, and they think I'm weird, they don't like the way I dress, or I'm not good looking enough for them, or I don't make enough money, or like I drive a car that they think is loserish, and like, why do they have to treat, like, people will cuss. It's just like, have you ever been around someone like that, where they're like, they're just negative, and they just have this, they hate everything, like, oh, look at this, look at this shitty Jeep, I don't like Jeeps, or look at this guy with his stupid shoes, or like, just negative people like that, and you're like, how did that even happen? Like how did this person get to be like that? How did this person get to be so judgmental? How did this person get to be messed up like that? And then you kind of realize that, man, the world's getting worse. It's not getting better, it's getting worse. Like, maybe people have more money. Maybe people, they live in nicer houses, they wear better clothes, maybe. But also, damn, people are shitty. They're not kind, they're not loving, they're just shitty. And like, I don't know, man. Like I said earlier, I think it's a conservative Christian thing. I think being a Christian brings people back to core values. I think it brings people back to things like love and forgiveness and acceptance and
That doesn't mean you accept something that's evil, or you accept and forgive and love something that is, essentially harmful or antagonistic in your life or something like that. It just means like people just used to be loving and kind and neighborly, and it's like it's gone. They just used to be so inviting and warm, and like you wonder like what happened to that? Where did it go? How come people aren't like that anymore? It's like you wonder, and I don't know, man. But I know I spent a lot of years like really consumed with my own things, and it took me a while to really notice this. I was pretty selfish and insular myself for a long time. Although, I always, believed in being kind and things like that. But it's easy to get caught up, excuse me, it's easy to get caught up in your own things, in your own life, to where you just don't even care about anyone else or anything. And you're consumed by your own things. Excuse me. Whether those things are good or bad. You can be consumed by your own misery, your own pain. You can be consumed in your sports games. You can be consumed in your 401k or your financial planning or whatever it may be. There's so much to take up our time and consume us. We don't remember or even think about being kind to other people, being neighborly and loving to other people. And so it's becoming a lost culture, becoming a lost thing to be social like that. And I wish that it wasn't. I wish that people did have good character. I wish that people did, be more loving and kind socially. I wish they did behave like that, but they don't anymore. It just seems. Anyway, that's just some things I've noticed. Appreciate you guys listening to my podcast. This one's been a little bit different than I usually talk about red pill stuff.